The moment the banquet hall doors swung shut behind us, I knew we hadn't just left a party. We'd set fire to a bridge that could never be rebuilt. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't possibly have predicted as I buckled my crying 9-year-old into the car, was that the explosion we'd just walked away from was nothing compared to the silent bomb we'd been living on top of for years. The air inside that banquet hall had a weight to it, you know? That thick, perfumed smell of too many flowers crammed into too small a space, mixed with the greasy warmth of catered chicken marsala. It was supposed to be a celebration, my mother-in-law's 60th. The woman had planned this event like she was coordinating a military campaign. Gold tablecloths, seating cards with calligraphy, 3 separate tables just for the kids. It looked expensive. It looked important. It looked like exactly the kind of night where no one would notice a little girl being quietly erased. You know, we hear stories all the time about families falling apart, but nothing prepares you for watching it happen in slow motion right in front of you. If you've ever felt that knot in your stomach when you know something's wrong but can't prove it yet, hit that like button and subscribe to Anonymous Confessions, because this is one of those stories where the truth takes its time coming out. Our daughter Willow had been buzzing all day. She'd practiced a little curtsy for her grandma, made a card with glitter glue that got everywhere. She was 9. She still believed that if she tried hard enough, her grandparents would eventually love her the way grandparents are supposed to. I watched her run ahead toward the kids' table, her little ponytail bouncing, and I turned back to help my husband Kelvin with the coats. By the time I looked again, something was off. Patricia, my mother-in-law, was bent down whispering in Willow's ear, and Willow, she just froze. Not the cute I'm listening freeze, the kind of freeze you see in nature documentaries right before something terrible happens. Then Patricia took her by the elbow and led her away from the main kids' table, led her across the room, led her to a corner I hadn't even noticed, next to a trash can that was already overflowing with napkins and plastic cups. And there it was, a chair. Not a nice chair like everyone else had, a flimsy plastic folding thing, the kind you'd find in a storage closet. Patricia set it down right next to that trash can and gestured for Willow to sit. And Willow? She sat, like her legs had forgotten how to say no. I felt Kelvin tense up beside me before he even spoke. "What the hell is happening?" he muttered. I didn't answer. I couldn't. We walked over, and when Willow saw us, she wiped her face so fast I almost didn't catch it. But I caught it. She'd been crying. "Sweetheart," I said, kneeling down so I was at her level, "why are you sitting here?" Her mouth trembled. You know that moment when a kid is trying so hard to be brave that it just breaks you? "Grandma said," she swallowed, "Grandma said I can't sit with the other kids." Kelvin knelt next to me. "Why not?" Willow's eyes got wet again. She said that table is for actual grandchildren, not cheaters' kids. I swear I felt something snap inside me, like a bone breaking, but in my chest. Kelvin went completely still, not angry, not shocked, just empty, like someone had reached inside and pulled out everything that mattered. He stood up slowly, took Willow's hand, and said, "I'll handle this." I started to follow, but he gave me this look that said, "Stay back, let me do this." And I did. I stayed a few steps away, close enough to hear everything. Patricia's gave that fake smile she's perfected over the years, the one that says, "I'm pleasant, but you're annoying me." "Oh, there you are, enjoying the party?" Kelvin didn't smile. "Did you tell Willow she's not a real grandchild?" The smile cracked. Victor, his dad, jumped in. "Now hold on, let's not—" I asked a yes or no question. Patricia clutched her pearls, she actually wears pearls like she's auditioning for a role as a dignified grandmother, and said, "Willow must have misunderstood. She has such an imagination. You know how children are." "She's not lying," Kelvin said quietly. Patricia scoffed. "I would never say something like that." "You whispered it, Kelvin, right in her ear, so no one else would hear." Patricia froze. For half a second, I saw something real flicker across her face, maybe fear. Then she recovered. "It was a joke, Kelvin. You're overreacting. She took it the wrong way." Kelvin stared at her for what felt like a full minute. Then he nodded slowly. "Thanks for the clarity." He turned, took Willow's hand, and walked back towards me. "We're leaving." We were halfway to the coat-room when Patricia's voice cut through the music like a knife. "Kelvin, you're leaving your mother's birthday early?" Every head turned. Kelvin stopped. He stood there for a moment, his back to the whole room, and I could see him making a decision. Then he turned around slowly, deliberately. His face was calm in a way that scared me. "You want them to hear this?" he asked. Patricia didn't answer, but her face said everything. "Yes, I want them on my side. I want you shamed." Kelvin raised his voice just enough to carry. "You told my 9-year-old daughter she's not a real grandchild. You made her sit next to a trash can. And you think the problem is that we're leaving?" The room went silent. I mean, completely silent. Forks stopped mid-air. Conversations died. Patricia's face drained of color, then flushed red, then froze into something I'd never seen before. Kelvin's voice stayed steady, controlled. "You just lost a son," he said. "I hope it was worth it." You could have heard a pin drop. Kelvin's sister Megan dropped her fork. His brother Brian just stared. The cousins looked at Willow with these big, confused eyes. And then Kelvin turned back to me, took my hand, and walked out. The drive home was silent. Not the comfortable kind of silent, the kind where everyone's afraid to speak because whatever comes out might be a scream. Willow stared out the window, her little shoulders shaking every second. Kelvin gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping him upright. And me? I felt like I swallowed acid. When we got home, Willow curled up on the couch under a blanket. Kelvin went straight to his computer. I thought he was checking email or something. Then I walked behind him and saw what he was actually doing. Click, the monthly transfer to his parents, gone. Click, the emergency fund contributions, canceled. Click, click, click. Every click was a small explosion. "Kelvin," I whispered, "are you sure?" He didn't look up. "She called my daughter a cheater's kid and made her sit by a trash can. I'm very sure." That night, I sat at the kitchen table and started planning Christmas. We host every year. It's tradition. But this year, I did something different. I invited everyone, my family, Brian's family, Megan's family, all the cousins, everyone, except Patricia and Victor. At the bottom, I wrote, "If you're uncomfortable coming without them, we understand, but the celebration is happening." I hit send, and then we waited. Patricia's call came faster than I expected. Kelvin put it on speaker. "Why are we hearing that Daphne is sending out Christmas invitations, and why didn't we get one?" Kelvin leaned against the counter. "Because you're not invited." A stunned silence, then the explosion. "What is wrong with you? Christmas is family. You don't uninvite your parents." "Actually," Kelvin said, "I do." Victor's voice cut in. "Son, don't be dramatic. You walked out of your mother's birthday like a child. Because of what you did to Willow." Patricia made that disgusting sound she makes. "Oh, please. You embarrassed us in front of everyone for no reason. You stormed out to make a scene." Kelvin let the silence stretch. Then, "And that," he said quietly, "is exactly the problem." Victor snapped. "You don't talk to your parents like this. You don't treat my daughter the way you did." Patricia delivered her final shot. "You'll regret this, Kelvin. Don't come crawling back." "We won't be crawling anywhere." And she hung up. The next morning, Willow was on her tablet when she gasped. That small, sharp sound that immediately makes your heart stop. "Mom," she whispered. "Mom, look." She turned the screen towards me. It was the family group chat, and at the top was a massive paragraph from Patricia, but what made my blood run cold was Willow's name. I don't know why Willow is saying we excluded her. She must have misunderstood or is acting out like her mother. We never said anything so horrible. These lies are tearing the family apart. Willow's lips trembled. You know that moment when a kid is trying so hard to be brave that it just breaks you? Grandma said I lied. Grandma telling everyone I lied? I pulled her into my arms, Kelvin wrapped around both of us, and right there in that little knot of broken hearts, I felt something shift. This wasn't anger anymore.
This was war. We responded. Not yelling, not attacking, just facts. Willow did not lie. She was told she couldn't sit with her cousins. She was placed on a plastic chair by a trash can. She was told she wasn't a real grandchild and called a cheater's kid. When she told us, Patricia denied it. We will not expose her to this again. For a few minutes, silence. Then the messages started coming. Maddie's mom said, "I saw Patricia take her away. I wondered why." Logan's dad said, "I saw that chair. That wasn't right." Brian said, "I heard Willow's face when she walked away. That wasn't a kid who misunderstood." Megan said, "I heard Mom say something about actual grandchildren at Thanksgiving. I didn't know she actually said it to Willow." And then more, a flood of support. Willow read each one like a lifeline.
Her breathing steadying, her shoulders relaxing. It didn't erase the bruise, but it helped. It really helped. Christmas came. Our house was full, real full. Kids running everywhere, adults laughing, my mom hugging Willow like she'd survived something, because she had. At one point, I watched Willow at the kids' table, the real one, not by a trash can, laughing so hard she snorted. I hadn't heard that sound in weeks. Across town, Patricia and Victor hosted their own Christmas. From what Brian told us later, only one elderly great-aunt showed up. Patricia had cooked for 30. One person came. She must have died inside a little. After the last guests left, Kelvin stood in the doorway, arms folded. I talked to Brian and Megan today. My stomach tightened. About what? He hesitated. The house. I blinked. What about it? They want to sell it. The house my parents live in. What? They don't own it? No, Kelvin said slowly. It was inherited, split between the three of us. They only live there because we've let them. I sat down hard. You mean the only reason they've seemed financially stable is because you've been letting them live in a house they don't own? And because I've been helping with their bills for years. And now? And now, Kelvin said, we're done. We're selling it. All three of us agreed. I covered my mouth. Patricia and Victor had no idea. They thought the worst thing that could happen was missing Christmas. They had no clue about the avalanche coming. 6 months later, everything looks different. The house is gone, sold for $540,000. Because it belonged to the kids, not the parents, each sibling walked away with exactly $180,000. Patricia and Victor walked away with nothing. And here's the thing we didn't know until we all compared notes. Kelvin had been sending $350 a month. Brian had been sending $250. Megan had been sending $200. That's $800 every single month, nearly $10,000 a year for almost a decade, close to $90,000 total, just quietly funneled to parents who acted like they didn't need anyone. No wonder they seemed comfortable. They were literally living off their children. Now they're in a cramped rental, paying real rent for decades. Their part-time jobs barely cover anything. They went from set for life to barely scraping by. Meanwhile, we're good. Actually, we're better than good. Willow is thriving. No more whispered insults, no more feeling less than, just cousins and love and peace. Kelvin and I have relationships with the rest of the family again. Relationships not poisoned by Patricia's drama. Look, I know stories don't always have happy endings. Sometimes the family breaks and stays broken. But this time the people who needed to lose everything lost it, and the people who deserved peace finally found it. If this story hit home for you, hit that like button and subscribe to Anonymous Confessions. We share new confessions every week. And leave a comment telling me, did we go too far or not far enough?
Patricia and Victor wanted control. They ended up with nothing, and honestly, that's where it all ended.